welcome, Dr. Manish Bhatia. I really appreciate you coming and being interviewed at a late hour in India now. It's I think 8:30 p.m. now, is it? Or
yes.
So I'm sorry it's so late and probably after a very, very busy day. I'm delighted to have you here, and welcome the audience that I have today. I'm very appreciative of you being able to watch this live. I know most tune in after the live, but if you can. For all that are available right now, I really appreciate you being here live and enjoying this interview. Just going to check. This is the first time I've actually used Rumble directly. So if there are any glitches, I will be checking. Okay, great. I will be checking my phone. So my apologies for being a little bit into tech today. It's not going to be the norm going forward, I hope, because I think this is a very smooth and lovely system that we have here. So my guest this evening is Dr. Manish Bhatia. Dr. Bhatia's accomplishments are numerous. He is founding director of hpathy.com, which reaches over 500,000 people every month. He's the associate professor at SK Homeopathic Medical College and founder of homeopathybooks.in, the world's largest homeopathy library, and he's editor of the e-journal Homeopathy for Everyone. He's a member of the editorial board of Homeopathic Links, an international homeopathy journal. He's a member of Board of Studies of the Faculty of Homeopathy at Jyoti Vidyapeeth Women's University in Jaipur. As well, he is author of the best-selling book, Lectures on Organon of Medicine. It's 3 volumes, and he's a contributing author to the book Homeopathy and Mental Health Care, Integrative Practice, Principles and Research, as well as co-editor of the Fireside Book of Homeopathy Tales. He's involved in clinical research and has been involved in clinical research and gives educational and corporate seminars on health and homeopathy. He's been in practice for over 20 years, and his clinic, Asha Homeopathy, is located in Jaipur, India. Welcome, Dr. Bhatia.
Thank you so much, Zoe, for having me here. You can just refer to me as Manish.
Oh, thank you, Manish. I appreciate it. And I've been looking forward to having you on this I call it a show, but on this vlog, because I remember many years ago starting out and finding so many great cases and articles on hpathy.com. And I think this is a lot of people when they were just getting into homeopathy and considering studying it, they kind of found their way to hpathy.com. And I think it's been so very helpful to lay people, but also students who, publish their cases there. I think you've done a lot for homeopathy, so I really do appreciate it. And I wanted to start right now into the questions, if you're okay. If you want to chat about how anything else, please interrupt me. And I don't mind going off topic, as you know. So.
Yeah, no, it's okay. So as we spoke about hpathy.com, the idea of hpathy was always to do something for the community. When I started off, I'm a graduate in computer science also.
Oh wow!
Yes. So my first job was as a software engineer, not as a homeopath.
Fascinating.
So yeah. So when I started working as a software engineer, and I was also studying homeopathy, I realized that there was very little information about homeopathy available online. And I'm speaking of 1997, 98, 99. That was the time when there was a internet boom and everything was coming online, and yet there was very little information online about homeopathy. So at that point of time, I decided I want to create a website for homeopathy. So I started doing this website and I created hpathy.com. And then soon I realized that it's difficult for me because even then, back then, I was also a very young practitioner. So I had very little financial resources to actually build a big portal. And alone, how much can you do? So the good thing was that being a software engineer, I was also aware of crowdsourcing, open source software like Linux and Open Directory project, which were all crowdsourced and open community projects which were doing very well, just like we have Wikipedia now. And we can go into merits or demerits of Wikipedia at some other time, but it's but ultimately it's a successful crowd sourced project. So I felt that why can't we do something similar for homeopathy? The only thing that it would require is that I refer to Ashpathy as a community project. I do not call it my website, but I call it community website. I de-link it with me and link it to the whole community. And so that's what I did. I built a team of international volunteers, and we started working together on building hpathy.com. We started the world's first medical electronic journal in 2004. That's Homeopathy for Everyone. It was not just the first electronic journal in homeopathy, it was the first electronic medical journal in the world. There was nothing before that.
Amazing.
And there were only newsletters. Prior to that, there were only newsletters. This was the first full-fledged journal with editorials and quizzes and clinical cases and all the articles on materia medica, repertory, philosophy, cartoons, and agro-homeopathy and veterinary homeopathy. So clinical research, scientific research. So we had all those columns. We were just publishing full-fledged medical journal online. So that's and then once we started that, the website became hugely popular. And since it was a community project, the good thing was that despite all the differences that people had between them, people were able to identify with it, and they all contributed to it. So despite all the different factions, different schools, and different schools of thoughts in homeopathy, we got the support of literally everyone, right from Vithulkas to Sholton to Sankran to Sher to all the Segals and Vijayakars and Indian homeopaths and everybody, every nook and corner of the world, everybody was participating. And that is what made Ashpathy what it is. It's less of my project. It has been a community project. And it is the good thing is that the team that I built nearly 20 years ago is still working. Most of the team is still there.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes.
It is an amazing resource. And, thankfully, you do have that computer technology background that has helped really promote this, because I do recall in those early days, I didn't realize it was going back to 1997, 98 when you were starting it, because I probably started getting online at that time, maybe around 2000, and that's when I found it. And I didn't. It's lucky that you started so early on. And
we launched it. We launched it in 2001.
Oh, 2001. Okay, it is going back a bit. So. And as I joke around, because I'm only 21, I don't know how I remember that far back. But yes, but no, that's amazing. It's amazing that you got everybody to come together despite the differences, because there are different approaches within homeopathy, and the disagreements, even going back to Hahnemann's time, are not small. And
yes,
for everybody to share is really, it's an amazing feat. And it was obviously very needed, and it's been helpful. Again, as I stated, most people, are aware of hpathy.com, and you've got 500,000 people, I guess, getting your newsletter every month. So, that the audience is hungry for it. And I think people are so isolated in homeopathy, they don't realize how big the community is, because It's worldwide. It's a global community. So it's lovely to see. Thank you. And I will move into the first question. I think it is interesting to learn about a person's childhood and how it shaped their decision, if it did, to go into homeopathy. And I'd like you to go in a little bit more detail than most, because so what your childhood was like, and what made you go, no problem, that's quite all right, made you go into computer science, and what made you move fully into homeopathy. It'll be a fascinating story, I think, for most of listeners.
So I never intended to be a homeopath. My father was a hobby homeopath. Like, he was working into railways, but he loved homeopathy, he learned homeopathy, and we used to get homeopathy right from our early childhood. So that was my first introduction. But the only thing I liked about homeopathy were the sweet pills, which I used to gobble up when my father was not around.
Oh dear.
So he used to keep like non-medicated globules at our home to dispense homeopathic medicines in the moment, and I had a sweet tooth. So if there was no sweet lying around, if I could not find anything, I would just pour some globules on my hand, and gone. They were the candies. So that was my first introduction to homeopathy. Uh, Homeopathy also solved my tonsillitis, which I had in early childhood. And as I grew up, I wanted to be a doctor. And so for when you are doing medical, when you want to go into a medical stream in India, you prepare for something called pre-medical test. Now it's called NEET. In our times, it was called pre-medical test. So I was preparing for it, and I was a good student. Academically, I was very sound. So I thought I'll do this medical studies. I gave the test for the pre-medical test, and at the same time, my aunt, my maternal aunt, who was a medical doctor, I went to her place to get some blood tests done because I was also suffering from asthma at that time. So she, for some reasons that I still do not know why she said that, she said, "Why are you not giving the entrance test for homeopathy?" And I don't want to be a homeopath. So she said, "Okay, the entrance test, the form is like going to, the form date is going to get over in 2 weeks. You better fill that form." I said, "I don't want to fill that form." So I didn't fill that form. Couple of months down the lane, I go back to her for another round of test, and she says, "Did you fill that form?" And I had no clue why she was insisting that I fill that form. I considered destiny. I said no. Then she told me that exam of that homeopathy got postponed, that you can still fill the form. And I said, "I don't want to fill that form." So then my aunt and my mother got together and they said, "Okay, you just fill the form. You don't take admission into homeopathy.
Nice.
It'll be a preparatory test for you." I said, "Okay, fair enough." So I filled the form, and I gave pre-medical test and pre-homeopathy test. Unfortunately, I could not make it to pre-medical test. Just by few marks I got left. So I should have taken the test again, and that was the plan. But I cleared the pre-homeopathy test, and I took admission into homeopathy because my father said, my other uncle, who is an orthopedician, he said that a bird in hand is better than two in bushes.
Nice.
So you at least take admission in homeopathy, then you can give the entrance test for medical, main conventional medicine again, and you can take admission there next year. So I said, fair enough. So I take admission into this homeopathic medical college, and I decide I'll never go. And I didn't go. So one day, again, it's destiny.
Yes.
One day, my elder sister asked me to buy a book for her. She was doing her master's in English, and so she asked me to buy her a book of English from a particular bookstore which specializes only in the arts books. So the art faculty, the English, the literature, art, all the art streams. So we have in India, we oftentimes have bookstores which specialize in special subjects. Like one bookstore will keep books only of commerce stream, another will keep only of science stream, another will keep only of art streams, another will keep only of medical books, another will keep only engineering books. So we have dedicated bookstores like that. So she sent me to a very old bookstore which specialized in literature books. And God knows what came to my mind while I was standing at that bookstore. I simply asked that book, "Do you have a book, something called Organon of Medicine?"
Wow.
I remembered that name from the syllabus that I had read. I had not gone to the medical college yet, but I had read the syllabus, the prospectus. So I knew that there is something called Organon of Homeopathy. And that book should not have been available at that bookstore. There's no reason in this world for that book to be available on a bookstore specializing in the literature books. Now that man like scratches his head for a while, and then he says, "Wait for a minute." He goes to the attic and gets me a 20-30-year-old copy of Organon of Medicine.
Wow.
Which was lying there, and he remembered that there is a book lying in his attic in that store from last 20 years, which nobody asked for. He got me that copy, and I loved reading. So I bought that book. and got back home. I had a full year to prepare for the next year for the pre-medical test, and I had ample time at my hand. So I started reading the book. Now, what happens is when people start reading homeopathy, or especially organon of medicine, they are not able to understand it, uh, primarily because of the language issue. Language is Shakespearean languages. It's of the era of Shakespeare in which that translation was done. There are long paragraphs, non-ending paragraphs. There's difficult words, even for people who are native English speakers. I'm not a native English speaker, but being an Indian, English is not my first tongue. So for Indians, it's very, very difficult to understand. And even for native English speakers, sometimes it becomes difficult because the language of organon is like from 150 years ago, even the English translations. Here again, I would say that there is serendipity. My mother was an English teacher. My sister was an English teacher. She was doing her master's. And while I was doing my before entering into this medical college and during all the holidays, I was a fanatic book reader, and I had read all the English literature that my sister was reading for her master's. I had read Shakespeare, I had read Wordsworth, every single classic author that she was reading. I'd already read all the novels, all the creative works. So for me, that language of organon was absolutely a cakewalk. So I started reading the book, and for the first time, when you are in India, what happens is when you are trying to become a doctor, you actually don't know what becoming a doctor means. You are just going for a particular stream. Okay, you like biology, you don't like math, you like biology better, you go into the medical stream or biology stream. But you don't know what being a doctor means. What are the subjects that you are going to study? What becoming a doctor means? What is cure? What is palliation? What is suppression? What do the drugs do? What kind of medical pharma research and medical lobbies do? What kind of work being a doctor entails? How many hours do you need to put in for the study and for the practice? You don't have any idea when you are entering into the college or when you decide that you want to become a doctor. So obviously I had no idea, but when I started reading organon, it was like light bulbs opening. Oh, this is what health is about. This is how you define health. This is what medical practice is. This is what being a doctor means. This is what restoration of health means. This is what cure is. This is what suppression is. This is what palliation is. And then I realized that this is what I want to do.
Lovely.
I still remember, like, after every couple of aphorisms, I was only 17 years old then. I was only 17. I would literally jump from my room. I would literally hop from my room to the kitchen to my mom, who would be cooking food there for us. And I would tell, oh, Mom, do you know what I read? What I found? Oh, man, what this man has written. This is magical. I literally went crazy for Hahnemann. I literally went crazy for Hahnemann. I would like jump to the kitchen every 3 aphorisms, and I would tell Mom about everything that I had read. And then I realized that this is the doctor that I want to be. There's no other doctor that I want to be. So from that day on, I started going to the college. And my destiny was sealed. But then a lot of things happened. The education was not good. I went into the college because I read organon. I fell in love with organon. I wanted to practice or learn what I had read. When I went to college, I realized that the educational standards were very poor. Nobody read organon. Organon was taught through past books, question answer past books, and it was used only to clear exams. And the people who were teaching were not practicing, and those who were practicing were not practicing as per Hahnemann. So I was totally disillusioned. I said, I don't want to do this. This is not what I subscribed for. So at that point of time, I said, I don't want to do this. I'll do something else. I enrolled in computer science. And that's how my journey started on computer science. But somehow the love for homeopathy didn't go. I was doing my homeopathy also side by side. And I started assisting a doctor somebody in second year. So I was like still into homeopathy. I was not able to give it up, but I was doing my software engineering. Then I realized that the only time I enjoy doing programming was when I was coding for homeopathy. Like I would be coding for some technical stuff and difficult software for my company, and I would not enjoy that. But the moment I was free and I was coding for homeopathy, I was writing programs for homeopathy, I would absolutely love it. So then I realized that my love is still for homeopathy, and I completed my graduation in computer science, worked for a year as into that stream. In fact, my project for my computer science graduation was a medical diagnostic expert system for miasmatic diagnosis.
Wow. Fantastic.
So that was the software that I wrote, a miasmatic diagnostic software is what I wrote for my computer science graduation also.
I love it. I'd love to see it. To be honest, that'd be amazing.
So that's how, then once I realized that my heart still beats for homeopathy, I came back to homeopathy, finished my graduation here, started practicing full time. And in 2001, I started practicing. 2001, I created hpathy.com. And 2001, I joined a medical college here as a teacher of organ.
Fantastic.
So I did these three things in 2001, and I've been doing all these three things since last 23 years now.
That's amazing. I'm so glad you had a clear vision coming out. So you're able to, and you had the technical background to be able to offer your expertise, and noticing that they're lacking actual teaching on the organon. And that is, a lot of people actually haven't read it in North America as well. I think it's, go back to the organon. If you're lost, go back to the organon, right? It's if you're having trouble with figuring out a case, go back to the organon. You can read it every year and see something new.
True.
Because truly, the more you practice, the more you see, and the more it'll make sense, right? You have an understanding, but then you delve deeper and deeper as you gain more knowledge in treatment. So no, that's I'm astounding, honestly, for somebody of that young age to see that issue and be able to fill the gap. So thank you so much for doing that. I think you've helped so many people, just bringing that knowledge out to the world and ensuring that the education system does improve in the colleges there, just by bringing that in. So that's amazing. And you're right. I think that looks like it was meant to be. There's no other way to describe it.
There's no other way. It was meant to be.
Oh, that's amazing. So thank you for that story, because I know India is different, because the education system is one where it's clear there's a homeopathy route, and in North America we tend to fall into it. But it's just interesting that you were pushing back and ended up going into it anyway. So that's amazing, and great for your patients, and great for the homeopathic community. So thank you for going in a route that you didn't want to initially. I love it.
It was meant to be. I had no options.
No, I know. I kept pushing you in that direction, even if you didn't want to go. So I'll move on to the next question, which is, you launched the Dr. Bhatia Master Homeopathy Academy a couple of years ago. Why did you feel the need to create this academy?
So Zoe, what has happened in these last 20 years is that the medium for consumption of knowledge has changed. 20 years back, when I started hpathy.com, it was primarily text-based. And then there were discussion forums. That was what the bread and butter for all internet websites was. But gradually, in these last 20 years, what has happened is that social media came, Facebook came. When Facebook came, it killed all the discussion forums that were there on their websites, on other websites. Everybody moved on to discuss things on Facebook. Then when YouTube came and other social media, YouTube came, what happened was that people started consuming more and more video content. Then podcasts came, the people started consuming audio content. And then social media came, like Instagram and TikTok, and people started consuming snippets of content. And so the medium of consumption has changed. And so I was uh, thinking since last couple of years that I've been doing this text-based and e-sign work since last 20 years, but now the younger generation is not consuming the content there. So we need to diversify. Now, how do you diversify? Producing uh, video content without any revenue stream becomes very, very difficult. It takes a lot of money to produce good amount of video content, and then it's not something that you can outsource like uh, volunteers who are doing articles. That's something different. But when you're doing videos, they have to be done professionally. There needs to be sound editing, there needs to be video editing. So it was a lot of work. So then I decided that I'll not do this under hpathy.com. I'll create a separate brand for it, and it has to be commercially viable. So the idea still remains the same, in that I want to give as much to homeopathy as possible, but with a fine balance that a lot of information is free. So I still teach through this. Started as social media handles, Master Homeopathy, on Instagram, on YouTube, on Facebook, where I started teaching in small snippet forms. All that education is free. There's a series that I run called Aaj Ka Gyan. Aaj Ka Gyan literally translates means today's knowledge. So every day I'll do a small snippet, small reel, and I'll share whatever I learned from my own practice. So this is how it started. Then I realized that this is going well. Let's put more professional content there. So we started building this academy, Master Homeopathy Academy. We initially started doing free courses. We had a lot of free content available, free video content available through webinars, through seminars that I do. So we started putting that content as absolutely free content for the community. And then we moved on to some paid courses also, but they're very, very nominally paid courses, not very costly. Like we are not charging thousands of dollars or even hundreds of dollars. Usually the courses are like, it can vary anywhere from $10 to $100 oftentimes. So it's very cheap for very professional level of education. We are bringing other teachers also, but most of the education is being done by me. I am the main teacher. I love to teach. I've been teaching since last 21, 22 years now. And I've written several books, as we've already mentioned. So I wanted that knowledge to actually go far and wide, not just to my college students, because that's just a handful of students, like 100, 200 students under my influence at a time. But in general, I realized that even when I took admission to homeopathy, it was like 1994. And it has been like 30 years now, and the quality of education has actually not improved.
Oh, wow.
It has become more systematic. It has become more structured. But who's still teaching organ in colleges? Most of the people who are teaching organ, I'm not saying they're not good teachers, but they're not clinicians. And I personally feel that you cannot teach homeopathy if you are not a clinician. If you do not see, you can teach theory, but you cannot convince people to practice homeopathy if you are not yourself convinced to practice homeopathy. So I wanted people to see that conviction that comes from being a successful clinician.
I think
my idea of teaching. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you.
No, I'm interrupting you. I was just going to say, no, it makes so much sense, because you can tie your clinical experience into the aphorisms of the organon. You can relate it directly to as a teachable moment. And if you're not teaching, I'm sure you can describe it on a theoretical level and teach it in that way in class, but it's so valuable to have your expertise in the clinic and be able to tie it in directly to the organon in your learnings. And sorry for interrupting you, but it just, I think this is a very valid point. I'm so glad you're doing it. Go on, sorry.
Yeah, so that is what I love to do. Because it's one thing to teach case taking theoretically, and another thing to take a video case and show the class, okay, these are the steps for case taking. Look, this is what being silent means. This is what not asking a leading question means. This is how you have to frame a question. This is what you need to do when the patient is not saying anything. This is how you take a pediatric case. You look what I'm doing. And then And within that practical case, I tell you which aphorism fits. So this is how I love to teach. This is when I'm teaching suppression, I show you cases of suppression. If I'm teaching you homeopathic aggravation, I show you cases of homeopathic aggravation. If I'm teaching you medicinal aggravation, I show you cases of medicinal aggravation. If I'm teaching you complex cases with layers, I show you cases which have layers and which unfold like that. If I'm teaching you aphorism 210 to 230, which deal with like psychiatric illnesses, I show you cases of schizophrenia and OCD and anxiety depressive disorder to tell you what Hahnemann meant with all those aphorisms and why Hahnemann has written those. Like Hahnemann has written in aphorism between 210 to 230 that most of the mental diseases start on the physical plane. And it is in those physical symptoms usually that the medicine lies. Hahnemann has written this. But nobody will teach you that. And nobody will show you cases about that. That 20 years, 15 years since this patient is having schizophrenia or OCD or bipolar disorder, and then you go back into the history and let the patient to that point where this patient tells you the physical complaint that he had at the onset of this illness. And then you tie that, where that physical illness fits into the remedy selection. So it's one thing to read the aphorism, and it's totally another thing to experience it in practice. You fall in love with homeopathy, you'll fall in love with Organon only if you can see it in practice. So this is what I wanted to show the world. This is what I wanted. People don't read aphorism, not just Organon, they don't read provings. They don't know where the repertorial rubrics are coming from. When they are reading Materia Medica, they confuse derivative Materia Medica coming from secondary sources, Materia Medica which is created from pictures or from dream provings and from hardcore symptoms. They don't know which is what.
Yes, it's true. Yeah.
So when I teach Materia Medica or repertory, I take the people to the basics. Okay, I'm teaching you delusions in a particular course. Let me take a particular delusion rubric and tell you what exactly is written, why these remedies are there in this delusion rubric. What did the prover experience? What is the difference between, say, cannabis indica and morphinum in this delusion rubric? How do you differentiate between those two remedies for this particular rubric? What was the experience of the prover? And this is how I love to teach. I love to teach. Officially I'm a teacher of Organon, I'm an author of Organon, but as a clinician, I love to teach repertory also. I love to teach Materia Medica also. And so this is my way of teaching, and I wanted people to experience it. That there is a wholesome way to experience homeopathy, and through cases, through going to the source books, and then tying it all together. Within a case, you tie all of it beautifully, that the Organon is coming also, you are able to see the repertory also, you are able to see the provings also, and then you can see the progress of the case also. That it really works. It's not just a theoretical exercise.
Yes.
And that is what gives confidence to the people.
You are correct. It's one thing to read about something. It's one thing to see it in action. And I don't think you can separate out the repertory, the Materia Medica, and the Organon. So I agree that you have to look at them together. It's very complex. I don't think before people get into homeopathy, I don't think they realize how complex it is. You're taking three different types of books, which just to bring it down to layman's terms, types of books focusing on different things, but they all need to tie in for you to be able to successfully treat. You can't go just based on the repertory to give a remedy. You need to know the Materia Medica behind it, right? So if you're thinking that you can pick one and be an expert in homeopathy, you can't. So I think that's the only approach really is that approach. So I'm glad really that you started this project, because I think it'll be helpful not just for people starting out, but I'll go and ask another question later on. So I don't. This is my opinion, not yours. So I'll wait till we reach that point. But I do appreciate that, and thank you for creating this academy. And I put a list. below in the comments in the section of the Rumble channel. So people who are watching this, especially because most will be watching it in the replay, you will find all the information that you need there, and I'll also list out the aphorisms that Manish is talking about, so that you can clearly see what he's relating it to and where. So that you'll be able to see later. And now I think we'll segue into the next one. Whom would you say would benefit most from the courses? People interested in homeopathy, students, or professional homeopaths?
The courses are primarily meant for students and professionals.
And
I have a course. I have a couple of courses for lay people also. But we have just started. The first course that we started was only like 7-8 months back. We started the academy before that, but most of that was built through the free content that I already had. But the first professional course that we launched was only 7-8 months back. So we have got a long list of courses that we are coming up, but there's a limit to how much I can teach at a given point of time. So a lot of those courses are going to come up in the next couple of years. We'll be teaching professional organ, full organ, a lot of specific parts of organ, like treatment of psychiatric disorders, posology, courses on miasms, and courses on special methodologies, courses on provings, courses on specific repertorial approaches. Like we did 2 courses on delusion rubrics, just to understand delusion rubrics. Recently we did a webinar on only one rubric, ailments from love disappointed. And if you are able to see that one lecture, it was a 3.5-hour lecture. I took just one rubric, and with that one rubric, we discussed not just that one rubric, we discussed the whole physiology of love, the physiology of heartbreak, what happens within the biochemistry of all that, how you can use that biochemistry to create new homeopathic drugs, and how you can use drugs like vasopressin and oxytocin and adrenaline and cortisonum. The new drugs, I gave the materia medica for those. I discussed probably several dozen related rubrics, and then we differentiated probably another dozen or more homeopathic remedies, like aurum metallicum, calcarea phos, acid phos, natrum muriaticum, ignatia, antimcrude, and so many other drugs. So it's a wholesome study. We discussed the philosophy part, we discussed the repertory, we did so many rubrics, we did so many new medicines, we did so many old medicines, we went to the provings of many of them. So you see, even with one rubric, if you study it well, you can cover a lot.
Yes, agreed. Okay, that's great. And I'm curious. So for the new drugs, are there solid provings happening? Are there in terms of, it's not isopathy you're talking, so the new drugs that you're looking at, there are provings, so it's not an isopathy?
No, not isopathy. I'm not isopathy.
Okay, great.
There are provings available. Some of the provings are derivative from toxicology. Some of the provings are available, like cortisone and adrenaline. They are fairly well-proved drugs. You have provings for them. And apart from that, also a lot of new drugs. We do have provings from Jeremy Sher, Melanie Grimes, who's very sadly passed away recently. And we have a whole database of provings on provings.info. We have a lot of provings at the proving section of ashpathy.com also. So yes, there is a lot of data, and there's a lot of clinical data also coming from cases that people are solving. So yes, it's you have to, for new drugs, you have to gather data from all the sources to get the complete picture.
As they did in the past as well. You had the case symptoms coming in as well. So that is how just because sometimes when I look at it, some people do look at isopathy as a form, and they might not go directly into the provings or focus on that. It's like, okay, this is the problem, this is what started the illness, so we'll just use it isopathically. But that's not always it can work, but it's not always effective. So
you have to treat it as a subsection of homeopathy, which is now called tautopathy.
Right. Sorry. Tautopathy. Yeah. Right. Isopathy. I get. Yeah. So sorry. But tautopathy. Yeah. So that idea of treating that way is is a subsection, but it's not just because you're using those drugs to treat doesn't mean that's your approach. So that's what I wanted to clarify. So you're doing it based on provings and not just, okay, this is the disease that started the issue. And so, or the medication that started the issue. So I'm going to give the medication in homeopathic potency, which will hopefully clear it, because it doesn't always work. I don't know. In the past, looking at the masters, they weren't so keen on that. They said it could work, but you really do need to look at the provings. And I wanted to clarify for the audience that you're not talking about that. You're talking about looking at the actual, So sorry.
Actual provings.
Thank you. And each of the approaches are different. But I just, again, so I'm not saying one's right or wrong. I just want to be clear. I just want to make sure that people understand this is not the approach that being discussed now is not autopathy. It really is just working on the provings. And okay, so I'll move on to this one. And I think that is helpful because when we do have successful provings, and there are some going on, and I know you're going to go into that a little bit later for one of my further questions, because I don't see it happening so much in North America, but I'm excited to see it's happening a lot more in India. Is your plan to keep the classes online, or are you also considering adding in-person clinical training in the future?
I do take students in clinic also. I already do. I've been doing it for several years now, but in very like small groups, and so that's possible.
Okay, great. I know it's actually based on what you're just saying about the little snippets. It's easier for people to work online, but it can also, some people really want that in-class experience. So that's a lovely option. And is it really open to anyone? Is it just students in India, or would you accept somebody from abroad? So somebody who studied at one of the colleges in
No, it's open to it. It's open. It's open.
Okay, great.
It's open to anyone.
Excellent. So if somebody trained in Canada said, I really want to go there and I want to experience that in class. Okay, great. So that's anybody who is watching this or will watch this in the future, if you are looking at studying that could be an interesting option. I think you offering both helps as many people who can attend as possible, helps that to be achieved. So that's also wonderful. Now we're going into the research area though. What research projects have you participated in, and is participating in more research projects something that you are interested in doing in the future?
So in India, Zoe, what happens is that most of the research is done by the government bodies. There is a central government body, which is called Central Council for Research in Homeopathy. Mm-hmm. It has a central office in Delhi, which regulates the finances and planning of all the research that happens for homeopathy. They work for clinical research. They work in vitro research and integrated research and drug research. All these, they have different aspects of research that they manage. And then they have nodal centers, like there are around 40 nodal centers within India in different states of India where they actually do clinical research. Most of these nodal research centers are associated with some college. Sometimes they're independent also, and where they have specific research projects related to specific diseases or specific conditions. And most of this research is funded by the central government of India. And this is how most of the research happens in India. I'm not a part of that body officially, so I'm not directly involved in those researches. But as a postgraduate student myself, I did research for 3 years. And then as a teacher also, we oversee research projects of our students in colleges, all the postgraduate students. So that way we are involved in research, but I would love to be more involved, but then I feel that I'm more into teaching and practice.
You can't be everything, or in every area. You're just, then you're was it not? I wouldn't say jack of jack of all trades. It means expert in none, but you can't do exceedingly well because the research takes so much time and energy, and so and teaching there is that gap. For some areas, and there are a lot of great schools out there. And
If I have more time, then I would rather take more music classes.
music, nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
I love to sing. I write poetry. I love to sing. I'm trained into classical music.
Oh wow.
Uh,
Okay.
so yeah, if I have more time, I would rather give my time to those pursuits.
So you have a balanced life. I think that's very important, actually. And I just want to find out, what did you train in? So what instrument or instruments did you train in?
I'm into vocal.
So vocal. So did you do piano as well to support, or just vocal?
No, in Hindustani vocal, we don't use any instrument.
Oh wow.
It's voice training. It's all about voice training. There are accompanying. There are companies who play, but the vocalist only focuses on the vocals.
Oh, interesting. Okay, that's I like it because it's a lot of work. So you kind of it's good that you just focused on that. Sometimes in North America, piano helps, but when you reach a certain level of um, what you're singing, to actually have that level of at piano would mean really it would be rare that you could get the two at the level that you need it. So if you're singing
Sure.
really complex pieces, that's very interesting. So one day I hope that you probably won't share it on your one of your websites, but that would be lovely to hear, and maybe
But you won't understand it. I sing in Hindi.
that's okay. I okay. A slight. I digress a slight bit here, but I used to sing opera, and yeah, German, Italian,
Ah,
French. So most people don't understand it, but it's the music and the facial expressions and the tone tell a lot of the story. So you don't necessarily need to know fully what it means. And if the music is beautiful and lovely to listen to, it's fine. Because even when people sing in English, when we're talking opera,
yes,
you can't
true.
understand it.
Music doesn't have any language
It
and
doesn't.
no
Yeah,
boundaries.
exactly. Okay, I hope you do get more time to focus on that, because that is um, it's a wonderful thing to actually to vocalize and sing. The energy there that's there is quite lovely, and it's interesting to see that a lot of homeopaths have an artistic side to them. So that's
For
interesting.
me, this it's meditative.
Lovely, lovely.
Music is like meditation. It's like I still take my classes on weekends, like every Saturday, Sunday. I have my teacher coming to my place, and I still learn. Yeah, so I always tell him that these 2 hours that I spend with you are the best 2 hours of my week.
It's you finally get to focus on you. It's so much going out.
Yes.
It's lovely. I'm so glad you actually have ensured you keep that balance in your life, because I think as healers, people tend to that can get overwhelmed and can maybe neglect themselves and their own peace of mind, which is
Been
so
there, done that.
yeah. Good. Lessons learned.
Yes.
Now I'm going to. So the government of India. So my next question was something similar. We have a lot of foundations that fund research, or we will get government funding as well. Is it foundation based as well in India, or really is it mainly based on government funding?
It's mainly based on government funding.
Oh, that's great. Well, it's great. It depends if a lot of it gets funded. I think, though, based on what I've been seeing, if you're looking through research coming out of India, there is good funding for some solid studies. So I'm really happy to see that, and that's. It's very expensive to do studies, so it's nice to
Yes.
see that's going on, and that you can just submit a request to the government and go through that process, versus, I guess, running around in Canada, or North America generally. You could approach the government arms, but you would also go to foundations. So to fundraise to get the amount of funding needed for homeopathic research is a lot, and so that's a lot of work in North America. Whereas if you're going to one source, I don't know how difficult it is to get funding for projects in from the government in India, but it does, I guess, simplify the process, and hopefully there's a lot of stuff coming down the pipeline. And I also know that India does a lot of collaborative research with other governments. So that's wonderful to see as well. I hope that kind of progresses out to the rest of the world. I think it's so helpful. So, we're looking at the globe and how much we can learn from each other. I think that's a fabulous endeavor.
Yes.
And so you kind of answered that question a little earlier. So I'm going to move into one based on your practice. So you and your wife, I think, must be very proud of your clinic in Jaipur, because your website, I'm just going to give this to everybody out, and it'll also be in the comments, www.drbhatia, that's DoctorBhatia.com, won the Mobile Health Award in 2021. And so I wanted to find out, what do you think has led to your success? It's not just this award, you have some other awards there as well, but what do you think has led to your success for your clinic?
So there are two things. One thing is having a physical practice on the ground, and then a digital practice. So what has happened is that both me and my wife, we are MDs, and we have both worked very hard on our own self. As clinicians, we are very, very conscientious, and so we continue to work on our education. We do not rest on our laurels that we have already earned, and we rather focus on where we are failing. We are both like that. So it has been a continuous process of learning from each other, through each other, and pushing each other to learn more, and that has led us to be clinically good. It has led us to be clinically good, and fortunately, I've been able to learn from all the good masters, and rather, I'll call them my friends, be it Professor Vithulkas or Dr. Rajan Sankran or Dr. Sehgal. I've learned from all of them, and then I realized that and then I came back to Organon. After learning from all of them, because I realized that Organon is the way that I love to teach and practice. So I stayed there. And so God has been kind that we have had a good practice. And then being an IT guy, I started online consultation way back in 2021, 2002 or 3, probably sometime back. I was one of the first people in India to start a virtual clinic. So we have a virtual clinic now. I have a global clientele. I see patients from all across the world, right from Australia to North America to Africa to Arab to Europe. So I have patients all across the world, and then we have developed a way, especially with this video calls, the Skype and the Zoom coming in, it has made life so easy, because you can actually see the patient, you can talk to the patient. So the boundaries have disappeared. And that has led us a different aspect of our practice, and it was to develop that methodology so that you can deliver results even when the patient is not sitting right in front of you physically. And so we have been successful in doing both the things, in catering to our patients locally as well as patients internationally. And that is what led us to this growth.
Nice, fantastic. And your clinic keeps growing, your teaching practice is growing, so that's amazing. And I think that it's focusing on your personal growth and where your weaknesses are or failures are, and learning from that. I think that's probably the top takeaway there for people who have their own practices or clinics. We need to focus on ourselves, on becoming
That's true.
clinicians, right? So it's so that's valuable, and I'm glad you and your wife do that. If your wife is there,
She's not here right now.
Oh, okay, no worries. But so that's lovely, and it's nice to see a couple doing so well. Sometimes it's hard to work with your spouse, and sometimes it works beautifully. So I'm glad it's working very well for both of you. And so we'll lead on to this one then. Can you give an example of a difficult case you had and what your approach was to treatment?
So Zoe, it's very difficult for me to pick one difficult case, because I see a lot of difficult cases. Most of the cases that I'm seeing are autism, neurodevelopmental disorders. I treat a lot of autistic children because I when I did my master's, I specialized in autism. I did research for autism for 3 years, and now I've been treating autism for last 16, 17 years. So I get a lot of autistic patients and other Down syndrome and neurodevelopmental disorder issues. Uh, I get a lot of psychiatric patients, patients with schizophrenia and OCD and mood disorders and bipolar disorders, and then a lot of terminal cases also, uh, cancer cases, difficult pathologies. So all of these cases, and you do get good results in them. There are tons of cases. If a patient who has been on who is a schizophrenic and has been on medication for last 10 years, if he gets out of schizophrenia and is able to lead a normal life, it's so heartening. If a patient who is suffering from ulcerative colitis, he comes back to me with a normal colonoscopy, it's so heartening. If a patient if a parent who's come to me all distraught because the child has been diagnosed with autism, and 2 years down the lane this child is going to a normal school and is actually the best student in that class, it's such a fulfilling feeling. So it's difficult for me to point like one case. I'll have to probably point to 1,000 cases.
So just giving a general overview then, if you have a difficult case, maybe if you could give, or what would be your approach, and what do you find helps sometimes open the door to the correct path to help that individual heal and improve? So as a general overview of an approach that you found that's actually helped with some really difficult cases that you found, okay, was it on the intake and the questioning, or was it on the family support side of things, getting feedback from the family that helped? I mean, now I'm doing, this would be a leading question if I were a case taking, but is there something that you found that really helps you?
My understanding has been, Zoe, that most success in homeopathy comes from how you approach the case and what is your intention, who you are as a person. Because I feel that a homeopath needs to be a healthy human being first. And that is what I always tell my students: heal thyself first. So if you are not healthy yourself, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, there is very little help you can give to others also. You cannot give to others that is something that you don't have yourself.
Agreed.
If you don't have health for yourself, how can you give it to somebody else? So, and once you are healthy, once you are self-aware, once you know what your own limitations are, what your own problem areas are, what your own prejudices are, after that, when you're able to sit back and create a Zen-like state where you're receptive to the information, where you're not digging the information, we are just open to all the possibilities, where you are giving the patient the space to talk, where you are not in a hurry to prescribe, and yet you have all your antennas open, which is processing everything in the background. So all that information, and once you are in that state, I personally feel that you get some divine help. The patient gives you the information that you need to cure them. It is not for you to find that remedy. The patient has to tell you the remedy. And that is, if you are able to do that, if you are in that space, if you're open, if you're receptive, then in most cases the information automatically comes, what you need to focus on. And once you have that information, I'll also say that it's very, very important for you to be trained also. If you are not trained into how to take a case properly, if you make mistakes, the patient becomes silent and you suddenly start asking questions, your case is lost. Because Hahnemann speaks about silence. If you have not read about silence, if you don't know the importance of silence, you are going to destroy all your cases. If you don't know how to select a potency, how to repeat the medicine, you will destroy your cases. The case management is also an art that you need to learn. Then repertory and materia medica, they are not simple tools. You need to practice them. You need to learn the intricacies. You need to know how to convert the language of the patient into specific rubrics, because you take the wrong rubric, you go to the wrong remedies. It's like the GIGO principle in computer science: garbage in, garbage out.
Yes, exactly.
Whatever you are putting into your repertorial software, if you take the wrong rubrics, you are going to get a wrong repertorization sheet, you are going to get your wrong remedies, and your patient is going to get the wrong simillimum. A simillimum that you feel is simillimum. But so it's very important that there is no shortcut to success. You need to work hard, you need to study, you need to polish your repertory, you need to polish your materia medica, you need to have an in-depth understanding of organon of medicine. There are no shortcuts to that. And once you have attained all that, then you need to work on yourself also. You need to be a healthy human being. You need to be very healthy mentally and emotionally and spiritually. You need to learn the art of silence. You need to create that space for your patient also, where they feel comfortable, where they are able to open up, where they feel secure, understood, and they get the feeling of empathy. Only then you have that right combination of ingredients for the cases to be where you can treat any case with ease. The pathology becomes irrelevant, where you're not afraid of the outcome. You know there are cases where you're going to fail. There are cases where the pathology is far too advanced for you to cure the case, but you are still 100% sure that you can help that patient.
Yes.
You might not be able to cure everyone, but there's nobody you cannot help.
Agreed. That's lovely and beautifully said. I couldn't agree more. The personal work needs to be there in order for you to be an effective practitioner. So that's
Yes.
great advice. And I do think that we do need to keep training, because maybe we see a certain patient type that comes in with similar illnesses, but then we need to keep studying the repertory and the materia medica to really understand. So I think what you're teaching is valuable. We do need to keep going back. Maybe we missed something. Maybe we had a certain number of cases which were easy to see because we could understand the language of the repertory and relate it to the patient, but we'll get a new case that we can't. And so I really do think a lot of what you're doing right now is going to be very helpful, and it's helpful that it's online so people can, the ones who can't fly over, I know there are people who really want to be in person, but the ones who can't fly over and partake in live clinics, I think it's very helpful, and maybe even easy, just because it's snippets as they can fit into their lives. As I know you're so busy, I think most homeopaths are really also busy, but it's important to take the time to learn a little bit more and to understand oneself. So thank you for that. And as I mentioned earlier, you have published a number of books on homeopathy. What are the few books that others have written that you have found valuable in your learnings and in helping you become the homeopath that you are today?
Okay, so very long list. The first one would be Hahnemann's, all the books by Hahnemann. Those are the books that have made me who I am, from Organon of Medicine to the chronic diseases, to Life and Letters of Hahnemann, to Lesser Writings of Hahnemann. These are all the books that I really love and that I would like every homeopath to study and read. And then after that, there are a lot of books from the stalwarts like Bonninghausen and Lippe, Allen. These are all gold works, especially Allen's Encyclopedia, Herring's Guiding Symptoms. These are absolute gold. And from the modern authors, I love Luc de Schepper, his two books, Achieving and Maintaining the Similum, and another one, I don't remember the name. They're worth their weight in gold. Then the books by David Little, all the work by David Little is absolutely fantastic. His compendium, a huge volume of work, but absolutely good contribution to homeopathy. I love Materia Medica Viva by Vithoulkas, Levels of Health by Vithoulkas. I love a lot of books of Dr. Sankran, The Spirit of Homeopathy, The Soul of Homeopathy, Synergy to Similia, are some of my favorite books that he has written, and he has had a huge influence on the way I practice. Uh, Although I don't follow the sensation method specifically, but still he's a very good teacher. And if you read his books, you can read a lot about case taking, materia medica, repertory. So I've learned a lot from him in those areas. Then I love the books of Dr. Emil Segal, especially if you're following Segal's approach. They have been very, very useful in how you can convert the language of the patient into rubrics. So, yes, these are some of the books that I remember. Of Phatak's Materia Medica and Phatak's Repertory are also very helpful. It's a, I've got a huge library, and it would be unfair to say that there are. I have like thousands of books in my library, and I have hundreds of favorites. But yes, these are the ones that come off my head like immediately. I can recall these. These are some of my favorite authors.
Oh, fantastic! Thank you. I appreciate that. I think it's you're well read, and it's helpful. I think for people to know where you've developed from, and possibly to start them on some reading. In addition, I honestly will say I think it's a good idea to sign up for the online classes and to be able to view that and see it related directly to cases. So that would be helpful. So there's again that continual learning is so important, and so thank you for that. Is there advice that you could give to homeopaths starting out based on your own learnings?
Don't be afraid of failures. The failures are bound to happen, and there is no shortcut to success. Homeopathy, Hahnemann has also written this. Hahnemann has written that homeopathy requires the utmost commitment. And there's a favorite line from H.A. Roberts that I always tell my students. And H.A. Roberts, in his book, The Art and Principles of Homeopathy, in the very first chapter of that book, the last lines, he has referred that chapter to the students. And in that chapter, he has asked the student, what is it that you seek from homeopathy? What is it that you seek from homeopathy? If you want name, fame, and money, then homeopathy has nothing to offer you. But if you give yourself to homeopathy, if you give all of yourself to homeopathy, if you commit to homeopathy, then name, fame, and money will follow you. You will not need to pursue them. So this is the whole gist, the whole idea that I want to give out to everyone, that there are no shortcuts. You want to get something from homeopathy, you have to give something to homeopathy first. And what you have to give your life, your soul, your heart, everything. And it's not easy. I can tell you it's not easy. There's bound to be struggle. There are going to be failures. You'll need to work hard. You'll need to study hard. But then the rewards are unlimited. Every cure that you will perform will be worth the years of efforts that you will put in.
I love it, and completely agree. So that's perfect. I love it. Thank you. So valuable words to listen to everybody who'll be listening to this stream. Valuable words to recall. No shortcuts, and hard work, and don't be afraid of the failures. So the failures hurt. I know it's not fun going through them, but I think even Hahnemann had difficult cases late in his career. You would have difficult.
Everyone has. The only thing is that you need to learn from your failures so that you don't repeat your failures.
That's also a very valid point. I love that. Thank you. So I go to this as always my last question, and for all the interviews, what do you think homeopaths can do to help strengthen homeopathy around the world?
The first thing is that you need to be a good homeopath yourself, because every one of us is the brand ambassador for homeopathy. If each homeopath is able to do good clinical work, they can do miracles in homeopathy, homeopathy will survive. Homeopathy will survive despite all the antagonism and all the pharma funding and all the negative things that are happening, if there is a demand from the public, nobody can stop homeopathy. And who can create that demand? Only a good homeopath can create that. If there is a one good homeopath in each community who is able to cater to that community, is able to solve all the acutes and chronics, who is the friend of the community, nobody can take away homeopathy from that community. So every homeopath needs to consider themselves as the brand ambassador for homeopathy. And with that feeling, if they start working, then nobody can subdue homeopathy in any part of the world.
I love it. And thank you. So many words of wisdom today that you have shared. I truly appreciate it. Manish, I'm so grateful that you were able to join me today. And if there's anything else you want to add right now, that's fine. If not, we'll close out for the day. But truly, these have been some gems that you've given to us today. So I greatly appreciate it.
I think I'm done. It has been a wonderful conversation. Thank you for having me today. I love talking to you.
Same here. Thank you. It's such a pleasure, and I hope we'll talk again, probably in the next vlog series. But yeah, to go into the psychology and psychiatry aspects of the integrative medicine approach that you've done, I think that probably will be quite valuable to learn about. So thank you again, and everybody who's able to attend, thank you so much for attending live. I know more of you will attend afterwards. We've got a lot of views after the lives. If you can join the lives, that would be lovely. And if you want to learn more about these as these are coming up and as we are having the vlogs live, it's great to participate, great to ask questions if you have any. So please do click the follow button here on Rumble, and also subscribe on YouTube. That would be lovely if you could join us live, because we can add some questions in later. You can add it into the chat following it. That would be lovely as well. But if you want to partake in the live, because I think it's so much more fun for viewers if they can ask lots of questions and find out more from homeopaths that they may have heard about and can actually get a great question. A great opportunity to ask a question. So I'm just going to put this one up here. And so I do appreciate it. And thank you again for all the attendees. Thank you, Ruby Begonia 13, for your question, your comments. I really appreciate it. And again, Manish, thank you so much for joining me today. And I hope everybody has a wonderful day. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.